Dear friends and sisters, I talk to you is Manakchand Sanghi, Bangalore, Karnataka state. After the death of Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, the country felt stunned, gloomy and thought that what will happen next. But you know that God is great and big. I remember this song which is very favorite. बदल जाए अगर माली चमन होता नहीं काली बहारें फिर भी आती हैं बहारें फिर भी आएंगी बदल जाए अगर माली Indira Priyadarshini Gandhi took over as the next third Prime Minister of India and was a central figure of the Indian National Congress Party. Indira Gandhi, who served as a Prime Minister from 1966 to 1977 and then again from 1980 until her assassination in 1984. She was the second longest serving Prime Minister of India and the only woman to hold the office. She served as the Chief of Staff of her father's highly centralized administration between 1947 and 1964 and came to wield considerable unofficial influence in government. She was elected as Congress President in 1959 by the Congress Party. She did not give consent to become Prime Minister after the death of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, but liked to become the Cabinet Minister. She finally consented to become the Prime Minister in succession to Lal Bahadur Shastri in 1964. Indira Gandhi was known for the political ruthlessness and unprecedented centralization of power. She presided over a period where India emerged with greater power than before to become the regional hegemon of South Asia, with considerable political, economic and military developments. Indira Gandhi presided over the state of emergency from 1975 to 1977, during which she ruled this country by decree and made lasting changes to the Constitution of India. Indira Gandhi was the greatest Indian Prime Minister and was known as Woman of the Millennium and India Changer. In her tenure, India made historical changes in economy, political and social fields, which have changed the scenario, who contributed a lot to make this country as today India. During 1966, when she took over as Prime Minister, the Congress was split in two factions. The Socialist, led by Indira Gandhi, and the another led by Sri Morarji Desai. In 1967 elections, Congress Party lost nearly 60 seats, winning around 297 seats in the 545 Lok Sabha. She has to accommodate Morarji Desai as a Deputy Prime Minister of India and Minister of Finance. In the year 1969, many disagreements has cropped up with Morarji Desai, which led to the split of the Indian National Congress. And Indira Gandhi has to take the support of socialist and communist parties from outside to rule this country. As I told you that Srimati Indira Gandhi nationalized banks in 1969. This step was historical one, and people of India liked the most and praised her bold decision, which has changed this economic scenery of this country. You know that most of the banks in India were continued to be owned and operated by private persons, despite the provisional controls and regulations of Reserve Bank of India. But businessmen who owned these banks were channelizing the deposits of public into their own companies, ignoring the private sector. In those days, the spread of banking system was very little, and most of the countrymen did not participate in this type of banking system. This resulted that poor men left unbanked. After Indira Gandhi took over as a Prime Minister, she expressed her intention of nationalizing the banks in a paper, State Thoughts on Bank Nationalization, in order to alleviate poverty. In this connection, she has nationalized 14 major commercial banks. This resulted eightfold jump in public deposits and took 1100% jump in advances of the banks. The base of bank branches rose from 8,200 to 62,000 nearly. These branches were opened in rural areas where there were no branches at all. This significant growth has changed the geographical coverage of the banks. This nationalized drive helped to increase the household savings and provided considerable investment in the informal sector in small and medium-sized enterprises, particularly in agriculture. This contributed to regional development and expansion of India's industrial and agricultural base. Indira Gandhi was re-elected on nationalized platform in 1971. She further nationalized the coal, steel, copper, refining, cotton, textiles, fertilizers and insurance industries. Most of these nationalizations were made to protect employment and the interest of the organized labor. The remaining private sector industries were placed under stricter regulatory control. You know that foreign-owned private oil companies in 1971 during the war against Pakistan had refused to supply fuel to the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force. In response to this, Indira Gandhi nationalized these oil companies in 1973. Hence, Indian Oil Corporation (IOC), the Hindustan Petroleum Corporation (SPCL), and the Bharat Petroleum Corporation (BPCL) has to keep a minimum stock level of oil to be supplied to the military and Indian Air Force whenever it is required. During Indira Gandhi's time as PM, she inherited a weak and troubled economy. Fiscal problems associated with the war with Pakistan in 1965, along a drought-induced food crisis that spawned the famines. This has plunged India into the sharp recession since independence. The government has reacted to take steps like liberalization of economy. Government has agreed to devaluation of rupee in return for the restoration of foreign aid. The economy managed to recover in 1966, but the growth ended up at 4.1% over 1966-1969. The growth was offset by the fact that the external aid promised by US government and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development IBRD did not materialize, which were meant for short-run costs of adjustments to a liberalized economy. Subsequently, Indo-US relations strained due to criticism made by Srimati Indira Gandhi against American bombing in Vietnam and US President Johnson's policy of withholding food grain shipments to coerce Indian support for the war. Due to this, liberalization was abandoned, grain diplomacy and currency devaluation of rupee became matter of national pride in our country. In such a situation, Indira Gandhi decided not to take US aid for food grains in future and not to be dependent on food aid to keep up the pride of the country. She has taken up the steps to build up foreign exchange reserves so that our country can buy US wheat commercially rather than going for food aid. I remember that period of 1967 to 1965 was the time when so many programs of social assistancy were taken up. India tried its level best to be self-reliant in industrial and food sector. Indira Gandhi emphasized greater state control of the economy and formulated such policies which helped the economy grow at steady pace to achieve a goal of self-reliance. I remember that Green Revolution had taken place during the tenure of Sri Srimati Indira Gandhi between 1966-1975. The sophisticated, better agricultural techniques, good quality seeds and fertilizers were used to take more agri-produce. More attention and importance were given to irrigation for more and more harvests of agri-produce. During Green Revolution, farmers produced 50 bags of wheat per acre instead of 5 bags of wheat produced earlier. Hence, we could produce food grains to feed the entire population of our country. We need not to depend on others and became self-reliant in food production. The next important and vital decision was taken during Srimati Indira Gandhi administration. The principle of equal pay for equal work for both men and women, enshrined in the Indian Constitution. Indira Gandhi has taken a historic and bold step to abolish the existence of privy purses for Indian monarchs. This was based on equal rights for all citizens and also to reduce the government's revenue deficit. You know that due to Srimati Gandhi's attempts, the motion of the abolition of privy purses was passed by Lok Sabha and has become 26th Amendment to the Constitution of India. Srimati Indira Gandhi have established 6 states, 1 Haryana 1966, and 2 Himachal Pradesh 1971, 3 Meghalaya 1972, 4 Manipur 1972, 5 Tripura 1972, Sikkim 1975, all bringing up to 22 states. She established Arunachal Pradesh and Mizoram 1972 as Union Territories of India in 1966. Indira Gandhi accepted the demands of the Akalis to reorganize Punjab on the linguistic lines. In Hindi speaking belt became a separate state, Haryana, while the Pahadi speaking hilly belt in the northeast were named as Himachal Pradesh. But she could not ward off the political conflict between Hindi and Sikh groups in the region. The status of prosperous city on the Punjab and Haryana border could not be resolved. Hence, Chandigarh became the capital of Punjab, Haryana, and was declared as a union territory. The Indo-Pakistani War of 1971 was the direct military conflict between India and Pakistan during the Bangladesh Liberation War. This war started when Pakistan launched preemptive air strikes on 11 Indian air bases on 3rd December 1971, leading to India's entry into the War of Independence of East Pakistan on the side of Bangladeshi nationalistic forces and the commencement of hostilities with West Pakistan. This war is considered to be one of the shortest wars in history, lasting just for 13 days. During the war, India and Pakistan forces clashed on the eastern and western fronts. The war came to an end when the Eastern Command of the Pakistan Armed Forces signed the instrument of surrender on 16 December 1971 in Dhaka, marking the liberation of the new nation of Bangladesh. East Pakistan had officially ceded from Pakistan on 26 March 1971. Indian Army had taken 93,000 members of the Pakistan Armed Forces, including paramilitary personnel, as prisoners of war. 20 lakhs to 30 lakhs civilians were killed in Bangladesh and around 400 women were raped by the Pakistan Armed Forces, especially Bangladeshi Hindus. Around 1 crore of East Pakistan people fled the country at that time to seek refuge in neighboring India. The figures above do not have been confirmed. The Indo-Pakistan 1971 conflict happened by the Bangladesh Liberation War, a conflict between traditionally dominant West Pakistan and the majority East Pakistan. Bangladesh Liberation War ignited after 1970 Pakistani election in which the East Pakistani Awami League won 167 of 169 seats in East Pakistan and secured a simple majority in the 313-seat lower house of the Majlis-e-Shura, Parliament of Pakistan. Awami League leader Sheikh Mujibur Rahman presented the 6 points to the President of Pakistan and claimed the right to form the government. After the leader of the Pakistan People's Party, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, refused to yield the premiership of Pakistan to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. President Yahya Khan called the military, dominated by West Pakistanis, to suppress dissent. Mass arrests of East Pakistani dissidents began and West Pakistan made to disarm East Pakistani soldiers and police. After several days of strikes and non-cooperation movements, the Pakistani military cracked down on Dhaka on the night of 25th March 1971. The Awami League was banished and many of its members fled into exile in India. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was arrested and was taken to West Pakistan. The next action of Pakistan Army was Operation Searchlight. This motivated to kill the intellectuals of the East Pakistan. It is said that on 26 March 1971, Zaur Rahman, a major in the East Pakistani Army, declared the independence of East Pakistan as Bangladesh. The Awami League leaders formed a government in exile in Baidyanath Tala of Meherpur. The East Pakistan Rifles, a paramilitary force, joined hands with the rebellion leaders. East Pakistan force, namely Mukti Bahini, consisting of Niyamita Bahini, regular force, and Gono Bahini, guerrilla force, was formed under the Commander-in-Chief General Muhammad Atul Ghani Usmani. This war broke out when the West Pakistan Army conducted a widespread genocide against the Bengali population of East Pakistan, aimed against minority Hindu population. Over 10 million people fled from East Pakistan and took refuge in the neighboring Indian states. India opened its border to allow refugees a safer shelter. The governments of West Bengal, Bihar, Assam, Meghalaya and Tripura established refugee camps along the border. General Tika Khan committed widespread atrocities on people of East Pakistan and allowed free butchering of East Pakistanis. His orders to his troops were that he wanted the land, not the people. It was known that green land of East Pakistan were painted red by Bengali blood. You will wonder that in spite of repeated appeals to the international community by Indian government about the genocide, no response has come from them. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi on 27 March 1971 expressed full support of her government for the independence struggle of the people of East Pakistan. She had decided that it would be more appropriate to take a military action to end the genocide. She allowed to give refuge to the suffered, exiled Pakistani army forces, officers and members of the Indian intelligence started using the refugee camps for recruitment and training of Mukti Bahini guerrillas. The mood of the people of West Pakistan turned aggressive and militaristic against East Pakistan and India. The campaign of propaganda orchestrated by elements within the government of Pakistan started to oozing out venomous slogans like Crush India and Hang the Traitor in an apparent reference to Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in Rawalpindi, Islamabad and Lahore, and this had spread to entire West Pakistan. It looked war become inevitable. India started a massive build-up of Indian forces on the border with East Pakistan. The Indian military waited until December when the drier ground makes for easier operations and Himalayan passes becomes closed by snow, preventing any Chinese intervention. Yahya Khan declared a state of emergency in all of Pakistan and informed his people to prepare for a war. Pakistan Air Force APAF launched a preemptive airstrikes on 11 airfields in North and Western India on 3rd December 1971. This included Agra, which was 300 miles, 480 kilometers from the border. To prevent the Taj Mahal from airstrikes, it was camouflaged with a forest twigs and leaves and wrapped with burlap because its marble glowed like a white beacon in the moonlight. Airstrikes from Pakistan was known as Operation Chengiz Khan. Pakistan flew around 50 planes to India. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi addressed to the nation and declared the airstrikes were a declaration of war against India. Indian Air Forces responded with initial airstrikes that very night. These airstrikes were expanded to massive retaliatory airstrikes the next morning and thereafter, which followed interceptions by Pakistani anticipating this action. This marked official start of the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. Thus, Indian forces launched a massive coordinated air, sea and land assault. Indian Air Force started flying sorties against Pakistan from midnight. The main Indian objective on the western front was to prevent Pakistan from entering Indian soil. Pakistan Navy started naval reconnaissance submarine operations on both eastern and western fronts. The Indian Navy, under the command of Vice Admiral S.N. Kohli, successfully attacked Karachi's port in Operation Trident on night of 4th to 5th December 1971 using missile boats, sinked Pakistani destroyer PNS Khyber and minesweeper PNS Muhafiz. PNS Shahjahan was also badly missed. 720 sailors were killed or wounded. West Pakistan lost reserve fuel and many commercial ships. This had crippled Pakistani Navy in the conflict. Operation Trident was followed by Operation Python on the night of 8th to 9th December 1971, in which Indian missile boats attacked the Karachi port in further resulting destruction of reserve fuel tanks and 3 Pakistani merchant ships. The Indian Eastern Naval Command under Vice Admiral Mr. Krishnan completely isolated East Pakistan by a naval blockade in the Bay of Bengal, trapping the Eastern Pakistani Navy and 8 foreign merchant ships in their ports. Aircraft carrier INS Vikrant was deployed and its Sea Hawk fighter bombers attacked many coastal towns in East Pakistan including Chittagong and Cox's Bazar. Pakistan countered the threat by sending the submarine INS Ghazi, which sank en route under mysterious conditions off Visakhapatnam's coast, reducing Pakistan's control of Bangladeshi coastline. But Indian Navy suffered its biggest wartime loss when Pakistan submarine INS Hanger sank the frigate INS Kukri in the Arabian Sea, resulting in a loss of 18 sail officers and 176 sailors. It is said that Pakistan Navy lost a third of its force in the war. Pakistan Navy got damaged 7 gunboats, 1 minesweeper, 1 submarine, 2 destroyers, 3 patrol crafts belonging to the Coast Guard Pakistan, 18 cargo, supply and communication vessels, and large-scale damage inflicted on the naval base and docks in the coastal town of Karachi. These three merchant navy ships, Anwar Baksh, Pasani and Madhumati, and 10 small vessels were captured. Pakistan had lost 1,900 personnel, 1,413 servicemen were captured by Indian Navy in Dhaka. Even Pakistan made initial preemptive air strikes on Indian airfields, but later on EAF adopted a defensive stance in response to the Indian retaliation. As the war progressed, IAF continued to battle the EAF over conflict zones. The number of sorties flown by the EAF gradually decreased day by day. The Indian Air Force flew 4,000 sorties, while EAF offered little retaliation partly because of the short of non-Bengali technical personnel. This lack of retaliation attributed to the EAF High Command to cut its loss, as it had already incurred huge losses in the conflict. EAF did not intervene during the Indian Navy's raid on Pakistan naval city of Karachi port. It had related with bombing the Okha harbour, destroying the fuel tanks used by the boats that attacked. It is in the east. The small air contingent of Pakistan Air Force number 14 squadron was destroyed, putting the Dhaka airfield out of commission. And the IAF superiority was established in the east. Counter-attacks by the EAF personnel proved the superiority over EAF, and its air coastal combat power dwindled to one-third of its strength. Pakistan attacked at several places along India's western border, but the Indian Army held their positions. The Indian Army quickly responded to the Pakistan's army's movements in the west and made some initial gains, including capturing 1,500 miles of Pakistan territory, such as Pakistani occupied Kashmir, Pakistani Punjab, and Sindh sectors. Indian Army joined forces with the Mukti Bahini in the East Pakistan to form the Mitro Bahini allied forces. The strategy adopted was a swift, three-pronged assault of 9 infantry divisions with attached armored units and close air support that rapidly converged on Dhaka, the capital of East Pakistan. Lieutenant General Jagdish Singh Arora, who commanded the 8th, 23rd and 57th divisions, led the Indian thrust into East Pakistan. As these forces attacked the Pakistani formations, the Indian Air Force rapidly destroyed the small air contingent in East Pakistan and put the Dhaka airfield out of commission. In the meantime, the Indian Navy effectively blockaded East Pakistan. It is on 16 December 1971 the Pakistani forces in East Pakistan surrendered, ending the era of power of West Pakistan over East Pakistan, bringing a free country that is a Bangladesh. The moments of pride cannot be forgotten by India when Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared the announcement of surrender by Pakistan Army in Indian Parliament, and she said in Parliament, Dhaka is now the free capital of a free country. We hail the people of Bangladesh in their hour of strife. All nations who value the human spirit will recognize it as a significant milestone in man's quest for liberty. Similar agreement was signed during 1972 between India and Pakistan. The treaty ensured that Pakistan recognized the independence of Bangladesh in exchange for the return of the Pakistani prisoners of war. India treated all the prisoners of war in strict accordance with the Geneva Convention Rule 2045. It had released more than 93,000 Pakistani power of prisoners of war in 5 months. Further, as a gesture of goodwill, nearly 200 soldiers who were shot for war crimes by Bangladeshis were also pardoned by India. The accord also gave back more than 13,000 kilometers of square of land that Indian troops had seized in West Pakistan during the war, though India retained a few strategic areas. Please see that we have won the war with Pakistan in 1971. This has consolidated Indian power in Kashmir. Indira Gandhi gave no major concessions on Kashmir. You know that Sheikh Abdullah, the most prominent leader of Kashmiri separatists, has recognized the Indian control of India over Kashmir in the light of the new order in South Asia. In light of this, Sheikh Abdullah gave up his demand for a plebiscite in return of a special autonomous state given to Kashmir in 1975. Hence, Srimati Indira Gandhi declared the state of Jammu and Kashmir as a constituent of India. Indira Gandhi granted statehood to Meghalaya, Manipur and Tripura and the northeast frontier as union territory, that is Arunachal Pradesh. The transition to statehood for these territories was successfully overseen by her administration. This was followed by the annexation of Sikkim in 1975. Indira Gandhi was of the view that poverty can be removed by clear vision, iron will, and the strictest discipline. She imposed the state of emergency in 1975 in the name of the socialist mission of the Congress. In a state of emergency, she ruled India by decree and without constitutional constraints. During Indira Gandhi's time, a massive redistribution program of land was taken up and excess land with the individuals were redistributed to a landless. Housing for landless laborers, the abolition of bonded labor, and a moratorium on the debts of the poor were enforced during her time. North India was the center of the reforms, where millions of acres of land were acquired and redistributed. The government was successful in procuring houses for landless laborers. 4 million of houses were built up during 1975 itself. The long-term effects of these social reforms gave rise to the prominence of middle-class farmers from intermediate and lower class. The rise of these newly empowered social classes challenged the political geography of the belt of North India. Indira Gandhi was a charismatic mass political leader of India and was so famous in Andhra Pradesh that the people of Andhra Pradesh were calling her Indra Ma, in Mother Indra. They were openly telling that we know Indra Ma only, not else. This is because of the Indian Indira Awas Yojana, which built up low-cost housing for the rural period in that state. Indira Gandhi is associated with fostering a culture of nepotism in Indian politics and in the Indian institutions, such as Indira Awas Yojana, a central government low-cost housing scheme for rural people, is named after her. The International Airport at New Delhi is named Indira Gandhi International Airport in her honor. The Indira Gandhi National Open University is also named after her name, which is the largest university in the world. The Indian National Congress established the annual Indira Gandhi Award for National Integration in 1985, given in her memory on her death anniversary. Indira Gandhi Memorial Trust is also constituted with the annual Indira Gandhi Prize. Please note that I will talk further to you about her in my next 9th letter. Jai Hind. Please repeat the following godly words with me. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru Ji. Om Namo Shivaya, Om Namo Shivaya, Om Namo Shivaya, Om Namo Shivaya. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Om Sri Venkateshaya Namah. Om Sri Venkateshaya Namah. Om Sri Venkateshaya Namah. Om Sri Venkateshaya Namah.